Haven't got much done around here for a few days. It's a beautiful day today, or it turned out to be a nice day today. It quit raining early this morning and kind of cleared off. They'd forecast it to be rain and snow today, but it turned out to be pretty nice. But the last week has just been nasty, blowing and raining and mixed rain and snow and just ugly. But that's not the reason we didn't get anything done around here. Last Thursday, my wife stepped off the steps there on the house, wound up breaking her leg. We took her to the emergency room and her leg was broke down just above the ankle. So we spent Friday trying to find some place to take her to get surgery on her. She needed to have surgery done on by an orthopedic surgeon, and we did quite a bit of checking around. Finally found a doctor in Ketchikan that wanted to see her and do a surgery on her. He wanted us to come down right away, but by the time we got a hold of him and got everything all settled with him looking at the x-rays and stuff like that, it was too late to get the plane out of here that day. But we did get a flight out on Monday south to Ketchikan, and we spent the night there Monday, and the doctor saw her on Tuesday, examined her leg again, and then put her in the hospital at surgery on Wednesday. Put a plate on one bone and a couple pins on the other bone and reattached the ligaments on her foot. He told us we could go home on Thursday, but Thursday was Thanksgiving Day and none of the planes were flying. Everything was shut down. So we came home yesterday. Yesterday was Friday and we made it home yesterday. On Monday when we left here, the plane that comes in here usually stops in Juneau, and they couldn't get in there. There hadn't been a plane in Juneau all day on Monday, or in Sitka, and we were the first plane to get into Ketchikan. The wind dropped down enough that we were able to get into Ketchikan. Tuesday it was nasty down there. It was blowing pretty good. Lifted a little bit in the afternoon, and I saw a few of the local bush planes flying, a couple of them, and jets came in. But Wednesday I was up there in the waiting room while my wife was in surgery, and it was just like a tornado out there. 50-mile-an-hour winds or better. There was white water down on the water. The wind and rain had hit the window there in the waiting room like a fire hose, and nobody was flying Wednesday, not even the airlines. Of course, Thursday nobody flew because it was a holiday. Anyway, we were able to get home on Friday. She's going to stay at a friend's place who has a bedroom and a bathroom all on one floor and a nice open area where she can get around. So she's going to stay there for a while until she can get her feet underneath her and start getting around. It's just hard for her to get around up here on one leg and crutches. The cabin's pretty tight, and she couldn't get up and down the stairs there. They're real narrow and steep. She couldn't have got back and forth from the living room down up to the bedroom, and then coming all the way out here to go to the outhouse and whatnot. We did have arrangements so she wouldn't have to come all the way out here. Well, like I said, today turned out to be a pretty nice day, and my project of the day was to come out here and work on the outhouse. I'd been working on the roof on it. It was leaking, and I worked on it and dinged around with it and everything, and it just got worse. So I figured I've been working on this metal roofing that I put all the way around the oil tank there. Oh, I figured I'd just go ahead and get some more out and cut it and put fresh tin up there on the roof. Anyway, I figured I'd work on that today, but my son came over and I've been kind of helping him a little bit. He put snow tires on the Expedition there last week, and apparently he didn't get one tire tightened up right or something. The lug nuts tightened up on it right. It came loose yesterday and sheared off a couple of studs. Napa decided to take a long weekend this Thanksgiving holiday weekend, so there's nobody there to get new studs. So we were planning on fixing that today. And then he's been driving my granddaughter's car, but he quit driving it because of the ice and the snow on the roads for a while. Well, we found a set of studded winter tires that were in really good shape, so he came out today to put those on. And they were on universal rims, but the rims wouldn't fit on that car. So anyway, we wasted some time getting it set up and trying those on there and whatnot, and they wouldn't work. I bought a set of snow tires, studded snow tires for her here last winter that they never did get mounted up. So I went in the trailer up here, the storage bin here, and got to looking around, and I dug out a couple of new wheels that we had here. So we're going to try to mount those on there, and they're universal wheels, and they almost fit, but the holes for the lugs didn't quite fit. They were so close we could have forced them on, but that wouldn't have been right, so we're going to ream the holes out so that the wheels will fit on there. And then we'll see if we can mount the tires on there. So anyway, we kind of wasted the afternoon away doing that, trying to find all the things, finding my reamers and finding the right reamers for the job, and digging out the tires and wheels and this and that and the other thing. And now it's getting dark, so it's too dark to do anything now. I'm going to go ahead and stage things a little bit for working on this outhouse. I got the ladder up here. I'll go get the impact wrench so I can take those screws out of there and stuff and kind of get things all set up so I can put that roofing on there tomorrow. Maybe I'll go out and dig up another sheet of roofing. I've got one out here now that I can cut to size to fit that'll make at least 2, if not 3, and I got to figure out how many pieces I need. Maybe I only need 3, I don't know. Anyway, like I said, nothing been getting done around here for a few days. The weather's supposed to change now and get clear again for a while, and so we're supposed to have another week of open weather, nice clear weather, but it's supposed to get cold again, get down to 0 at night, and maybe a little colder than that, maybe below 0, I don't know. Anyway, it's supposed to be cold again, so that won't be much fun, but at least it won't be raining, and maybe we can get some more stuff done outside. And then, of course, I've got the building wrap here. The Tyvek on the front of the house here has all got old and ripped up, so I need to put new Tyvek up on that. I was hoping I could get those boards out of there and get them planed up this winter and get them ready to put the siding up on there that I want, the decorative siding and trim and stuff I want on this end of the house, but that didn't happen. But I've got everything all set up. I've got the planer and jointer all cleaned up, and the table saw all cleaned up, and the shaper all cleaned up, and all the tools now are ready to go to get that done. So anyway, maybe in the spring when the weather breaks again, we can get started on doing that stuff. Anyhow, better go help my son out some more. He's still working on those wheels, trying to get them to fit. A beautiful day today. Just about crystal clear again. It got cold overnight, down about 25 degrees, I think. I went out about 6 o'clock to go over to my wife's friend's Kelly, where my wife is staying, to have leftovers from her Thanksgiving dinner about 6 o'clock last night, and I couldn't hardly get into the car. It was all froze up and iced over. It warmed up today to about 32, a little frosty. It's supposed to get down in the single digits now the next few days. I got one more project knocked off the list. I put a new roof, new tin there on the outhouse roof. Had a little leak in it earlier this year, and the more I worked on it, the worse it got. It's getting kind of nasty in there to sit in there and have the seat wet and have water dripping on your head when you're trying to relax a little bit. So I decided I was going to go ahead and just put new tin up there, new metal on the roof. So I got up last night just before dark, or right at dark, and took the screws out of the old tin, and I went up there this morning and took it off. Man, it was wet underneath that stuff. It was just sheets of water underneath the layers of that. Oh, no wonder it was leaking. Well, anyway, I took all the old tin off of there and cut some of the new old tin, the same stuff that I put around the oil tank, and then I did something a little different. I put some tar paper up there. So that building has got kind of skip sheeting on it, 1x flitches up there, and there's a couple inches between each one of them to kind of spread it out, which is pretty common on a building. The thing is, when you just have bare tin up there, especially in this country, there's so much moisture in it that you get condensation on the underside of the metal roofing, and then of course as it warms up it drips down and gets things wet inside. That wasn't too big of a problem, but I went ahead and cut some tar paper and fitted up there on that. And that'll kind of help with that a little bit. That'll keep the condensation from getting up on the tin and from dripping down in the outhouse. Anyway, that thing should be watertight now, at least on the roof. Judy went and put a bunch of the battens that we'd cut for the cabin down there that we had left over up around on the boards on that, because they're just boards nailed up there. My friend built that, I don't know, 18 years ago, I guess, when he came up here to go fishing. A group of guys came up to go fishing, and this guy, well, he came up this last summer too, but he is a real go-getter. He can't sit still, can't stand still, and he always wants to be building something. So between fishing trips, he built that. I found the plans for it in Outdoor Life magazine, I think, or Field and Stream magazine, I can't remember. That's some of the first lumber I cut on my sawmill. Anyway, we've been using that for quite a while. I was kind of hoping to get away from that and get a real toilet here one of these days, but we're still working on it. I got the septic tank right there, so maybe this summer we can get to that. I've got all the pipe laid for it and everything out to where it's going to go, and I just have to put the tank in and then put a drain field in, and we can hook up a indoor toilet and shower maybe. I don't know, after 20 some years of doing without it, I guess it proved you don't really need it. But with this little incident with Judy breaking her leg, it would have been really convenient to have a spot where she could be indoors to go to the bathroom and stuff and didn't have to hobble up here. That's why she's staying with her friend in there in town. Anyway, it's getting dark here. It's getting late. The time I get all the tools and everything all picked up and put away, it'll be dark here, so I guess I better get after it, get things put away, get my mess cleaned up. Well, the weather's been really good here as far as being dry. It's the driest weather we've had, the longest period of dry weather we've had so far this year, I believe. Well, it was nasty when we were in Ketchikan until the day we got back from Ketchikan, and then it cleared up and got cold again. So it's been down around 10 degrees Fahrenheit at night. It's getting up to about 16 or so in the daytime here. Today it's warmed up a little bit more. It's up to about 25 degrees here. Well, anyway, not a whole lot of incentive for me to get out in the cold and work. I just don't have the cold tolerance I used to. I have been puttering around a little bit. I had to drag out a couple of stacks of lumber, 3 or 4 stacks of lumber, restack them. Floor joist for the house extension there, they got kind of wet, so I restacked those and stickered them. Then there was another stack there that I restacked, and then I had to dig some tin out to cover those up so they could get dried out. Anyway, I fooled around with that a couple of days, and my son didn't get one of the wheels on right on the Expedition when he changed over to the winter tires on it. The lug bolts came loose and sheared off a couple of studs on the rear wheel. So we spent a few days working on that, trying to figure out how to get those changed. And then I had to make a tool for him to pull the studs through into the axle flange on there. We got that taken care of, and he started driving the Expedition. Well, then it started dying on him, and he thought the battery was bad on it. He went out the road and the car died on him out there. He couldn't get it started, so I had to go out there and take care of that. Well, it turned out once I looked at it that one terminal on the battery was bad. It was loose, and every time it hit a bump or something, it'd come loose, and then the engine would die. And then of course it wasn't charging, the alternator wasn't charging right. So we fooled around with that a couple days figuring that out. And I dinged around with my pickup a little bit. The windshield wipers weren't working on it, and I dinged around with it a little bit. I don't know, maybe it just got too cold and they froze up, because I was just getting ready to start pulling that apart to figure it out when I just started the truck up, warmed it up, and the windshield wipers started working. So anyway, the other thing I've been doing is working on some of these slabs that I cut last year. These are slabs off those hemlock trees, that danger tree that I cut down, or 2 or 3 danger trees I cut down last year. And I milled up into posts and timbers to build a cover over my trucks. I tried to get the help the guy staying here to saw those up, but it didn't get done. So I've drug those out, and I've been sawing those up into firewood. And they've been out in the weather, so even though they're sawed and stuff and they're semi-cured, they're still not cured all the way. So I spent a day over there rearranging my firewood stacks in the firewood shed, and pulled all the dry wood over and stacked it up separately, and then I can cut this stuff up, these slabs up, and stack those up there so they get a chance to dry out a little bit. They've got frost and snow and ice and stuff on them, and they're kind of a pain to cut because they've got all kinds of rocks and debris in them from being pushed around there and piled up and whatnot. So I cut a bunch of them up with Judy's new little chainsaw, but of course the chain got dull on it fairly quickly, so, and it was too cold to get it started. So anyway, I spent a day cleaning up my shop, getting it straightened up. I bet I had a fire in there, keeping it warmed up. So I worked on the saw, got it sharpened up, cleaned up and stuff, so it's ready to go. Well, I've got to run to town and get a little bit of groceries this afternoon, but I thought I'd go ahead and saw up some of these slabs again, some more of them, and get them stacked up in there where they can get dried out. Well, that's pretty much what it's going. Those hemlock slabs are heavy anyway, but they're froze down to the ground into each other, so it makes them a little tough to get up off the ground. And this is all gravel in here, rock in here. So I've got 2 poles laid out there, 2 yellow cedar poles that I stick those up on so that it gets them up off the ground. They got enough rocks in them as it is without sawing down into the rocks. I don't know whether I'm going to cut those up for firewood or save them as poles, because we always need a fence post or something here and there. Judy does anyway for her chickens and things that she's doing. So anyway, I'll just keep on keeping on here. I'll go ahead and get that stuff there stacked up. So we got one more forecast for one more good day tomorrow, and then it's supposed to start snowing. And at first they were calling for rain, but they're still looking at temperatures, the lows at night in the 20s and the highs in the mid 30s, so that's snow. So we'll see how much we get. Hopefully it won't amount to too much, but we get what we get. We're kind of almost ready for it now. I'll get this pile of wood out of the way, and then that'll be ready there. But everything else is pretty much ready for plowing snow. Well, I think that pretty much does it as far as getting the snow plowed here today. I got back there trail pack to the chicken pen and where the car gets parked. That's opened up pretty good. Yeah, I didn't really have to do that in front of the hangar, but I did it. I got that cleaned up down there. I think I'm going to park the Bobcat there instead of back where I had it. I've got an extension cord right there. I can plug in the heater into the engine compartment. So I just spent a lot of time working on the driveway here going down to the highway. There's a lot of ice on that, and I scraped that and scraped it and scraped it and busted up most of the ice. I got that pretty well cleaned up. I'm not going to be able to get all the ice off of it, but I got it a lot better than it was. And I got some of the ice scraped up around here. I didn't get it all on this portion of the driveway back up here. I got to scrape down some, but there's still a lot of ice on that and a lot of work to get that scraped down to bare dirt. It's going to be really slippery right now because it's melting a little bit, but it's supposed to get really cold again now. So anyway, I got the snow down, cleaned up, out towards the woodshed. And not a whole lot of snow to plow yet, but it was a lot of work. I scraped and scraped and scraped on this hillside going up here to the house. There's a few places where I got it down to the dirt pretty close, but there's still places where that ice is 2 or 3 inches thick here. And but I'm happy with the way it is down the driveway there to the highway. That's a whole lot better than it was. And if it dries up now for a few days, if it gets cold, that won't be so bad. But right now the ground still froze up really hard, just melting on top, so it's slippery on top. But anyway, that's pretty good. I was just letting the Bobcat cool down a little bit, the engine cool down a little bit, and I'll shut it down and put it away for the time being. Hopefully we won't need it for a few more days, but who knows.
Well, that's better. That'll help.
Yeah, I was going to say, when you're coming down that hill like that, going around that corner, if you angle that blade sharp, put that snow around sideways, otherwise it slides off the side of the blade.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Sometimes that solenoid in there freezes up and then it won't work.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I got that a little bit of snow, that 4 inches or so of snow from the other day, all cleaned up and the driveway pretty well polished up. Then it turned and got off and got cold again for a few days and froze really hard. And yesterday, on Monday, the 12th, it started snowing, and it snowed all day yesterday. We only got about 2 or 3 inches of snow all day though. But last night, about 6 o'clock or so, it just started dumping down, and we got about a foot of snow total overnight. Well, the plowing that I did last week busted something loose inside, so I've got to wait till I quit bleeding before I can do any more. So my son Carl's out here working on this. He came out this afternoon to work on this, to clean this mess up. It's supposed to warm up again. In fact, it has warmed up to 32 degrees, and forecast is for maybe some more snow, maybe some rain. It's hard to say, but you got to get this mess cleaned up before it freezes again. And so I got to get out of the way before he runs over me. So anyway, he's not real used to running the machine. Oh, he's going to take him a little while to get everything cleaned up. And since we've got so much snow, he started pushing it between the buildings over there, between the bathhouse and the shop and stuff, to push that over the bank where it comes down off the hill instead of all the way down to the highway. It gets a pretty good pile if we go all the way down to the highway with it. So anyway, he's working on it. I'll let him do his thing here some more. It's going to take me a few more days before I heal up enough where I can feel comfortable working on that machine again. But, it's been over a week now, or about a week now since I run it, and I'm still hurting. He's trying to get the blade angled right now. There's a solenoid in there in the blade that changes it over from angle to tilt, and that thing freezes up. Well, anyway, I'll put the camera away here and go give him a hand and then get out of his way. I just got back from taking the dogs out for their morning run. Kind of nasty out there this morning. It warmed up overnight and it's been raining a little bit. So the roads are still icy and it packed snow in places and stuff, but it's starting to get slushy on top. Which, the ground is froze up, the highways froze up and stuff, so it's still icy underneath. And anyway, it was fun. So it was dark when I got out, left, took the dogs out. It's daylight now. It's warmed up quite a bit. It's raining now. It warmed up overnight. It's got a little touch of snow overnight, but not a heck of a lot. And it's warmed up, raining now. So my son worked with the Bobcat yesterday, plowing the snow and cleaning the driveway up. And he did an okay job, but he hasn't spent a whole lot of time running equipment and stuff, so he got pretty well wore out, beat himself up doing it. Kind of didn't finish up very good, so I'm healing up a little bit. I'll go ahead and give it out and give it a try and clean it up a little bit more. This driveway's like greased glass on this ice, so I'm gonna see if we can scrape it down a little bit. Supposed to stay warm for a couple of days now. If I can get this scraped down, maybe some of that stuff will melt off. And then it's supposed to get down really cold again, down around 0, something like that. So I get it cleaned up before it gets cold and froze in again. Anyway, I got the Bobcat warming up. I'll go ahead and, as it's raining out here, I'm not going to leave the camera out in the rain, so I'll go ahead and see what I can do to scrape things up, see how much damage I do to myself today. Well, it may not look like I got much done out here, but I widened that out a little bit and scraped it down. It's still icy up there, but I scraped down quite a bit off of it, warming up, and it's raining, drizzling a little bit, so maybe if it warms up for a day or two, maybe with gravel showing through there a little bit, it'll melt down some more. I don't know, the ground's froze pretty hard, so it's not really going to melt too much, but it's better than it was, I think, a little bit. I don't know, I got cleaned out some. Got it cleaned out pretty good here around in front of the cabin and the top of the driveway. Yeah, and over there in front of the hangar. And then I went down the driveway some more and widened that out and then opened it up down there on the highway. Made a pretty good park area down there on the highway. Scraped it down as much as I dared. So hopefully if it warms up for a day or so, we'll get it cleaned up enough that we can get up and down there anyway. Right now, like I said, it's still icy, and with that rain coming down on it and warm like this, it just makes it really slippery, but that's the best we can do. I threw one chain on the Bobcat. Those chains are starting to wear out, and the links are breaking on them. The cross links are breaking on them, and the one on the one rear one, enough cross links broke on it that it wouldn't stay on. So I had to take it off. I'm going to have to, got it in the shop right now, and I'll see what I can do about repairing that. I guess I better go cover the Bobcat up before it gets all wet inside again. Anyway, like I said, it's still drizzling out here. It's no place to be. I've worked enough for this morning. Have time to go in and fix some breakfast. And then I got to get ready to take my wife to the doctor this afternoon. She's starting physical therapy on it now, so that'll be good. She'll be screaming. It's Saturday, December 17th, and a beautiful day out here. Sun shining. Actually, the sun right now where it's at is just about at its peak for the day. Start going down now. Only got another couple hours of daylight here. We've had quite a bit of cold, dry weather so far this winter. This has probably been the driest stretch of weather we've had all year. But Monday it warmed up and started snowing. Well, then it stayed warm and rained. And that was what the deal was going on here, is the ground was froze really hard and there was ice on the driveway, but when the snow was melting, it got packed, of course, and got made into ice. But as the snow was melting, the ground was froze up really hard, so the water that was coming off the snow and the rain was just freezing into clear ice. With the water on top of the clear ice, that thing was just like, anyway, it was pretty slippery. So I worked on the driveway going down the hill here, scraped it down pretty good till I got it mostly to bare dirt. There was still ice on it, mainly in the ruts where the wheels packed down. So I came out Thursday afternoon and took a couple of bags of ice melt, and I spread up there on the hill and then down this way all the way. I just spread it out on mostly on the left side there where we walk to try to get it broke up a little bit so it wasn't quite so slippery, and hoping with warm rain and wind that we had for one more day that it would melt that out. Well, it softened it up pretty good and it melted it out in some spots, but then by Friday afternoon it was already starting to freeze. The water was still melting. It was still warm, but the ground was frozen, and you can see right there how the water comes out across that open ground and it just freezes to the ground. The snow was melting and the rain and stuff was still coming off the roofs and off of everything. And anyway, I got it softened up or crunched up a little bit so it's not quite so slippery. And especially down here on the driveway, I worked that over pretty good and put quite a bit of salt on it and got it in those ruts and stuff so they're not quite so thick. So anyway, it's not quite as slippery as it was. It's still pretty treacherous around here because where the ice did melt and the water on top of it, it is just glazed over. But pretty safe to walk around here. I still run in my cork shoes out here so I don't fall on my butt or my head. But now it's cooled off. Now it got cold again and everything's freezing up tight. Maybe it'll sublimate. A lot of times it'll sublimate. The ice will evaporate as we're going along here as it's dry. But anyway, it's not as bad as it was. So we've got a forecast now for some really cold weather coming. It's supposed to be down around 0 now for a week. Clear, dry, and really cold. I had skirted around the cabin there with that styrofoam, and that has worked pretty good, but I was going to try banking it with the snow, but all of the rain and the warm weather has just knocked that snow down to where there's not much left to it, and it's froze pretty hard, so I'm probably not going to get it done. Normally I've got one of those little ceramic heaters that fits in a light bulb socket and heat tapes on the water lines going up into the water pump and the water heater on the back there, and that stays pretty good down to about 15 degrees. But as cold as it's going to get now, I got a little electric heater I just went back there and plugged into the pump house box, and I was going to start banking that snow up against the house before it froze up solid, but I had to take my wife to physical therapy for a broken leg. And she called up as I was getting out doing stuff and said that the driveway down there at the house she's staying at was treacherous. So I got a couple more bags of ice melt and a 5-gallon bucket of sand and went over there and spent some time sanding their driveway and salting their driveway and got it to where, as they live down on the low side of the highway on a sharp curve, the young fella there that is taking care of the house, and he doesn't do a very good job of plowing the snow, and when the plow truck comes by on the highway, it makes a berm there. So coming up out of that driveway with it being icy, fairly steep coming up on the road, and then you can't tell if any traffic's coming, so you wind up coming up to the road and stopping before you get in the highway and slide back down the hill, and you got to go over that berm. So it makes it kind of a mess. So I spent an hour or so working on that and got it set up so that we could get in and out of that driveway pretty good. And that helps the lady that's living there in the house too. She can get in and out of there without worrying about slipping and sliding down the hill. Well, my wife had her second physical therapy visit yesterday, and physical therapist is happy with what's going on. She's doing pretty good, so she's still got a long road, a couple months to go before she can get back on her feet again. Hopefully she can start putting weight on her foot here in a couple 3 weeks. I forgot to plug the truck back into the heater, so the truck is froze up pretty good there right now. So I just got it plugged in, get it warmed up. My water tank up there by the house is froze up, so our laundry is froze up. We don't have water for the washing machine. Now I've got laundry I've got to do, so I think I'll get the truck warmed up, get my laundry together and go to town and do some laundry, at least wash it in the washing machine. I can still bring it home and put it in the dryer here. Been a week or so since I tried to do laundry, a couple weeks I guess now, so the laundry pile hasn't gotten any smaller. Well, I just got a fire going in the shop, get warmed up in there a little bit, and I plugged the truck in a few minutes ago. I'll let it warm up. I'll go fix some breakfast and then I'll come out and I guess get my laundry stuff ready to go and go to town, much as I hate going to town.